Hello everybody, welcome to this instruction video. In this video I'd like to show you how to make these coasters. These are called spoke wheel coasters and this is my own design. You see they're quite sturdy, they're about 7 inches, 19 centimeters across. They're ideal to use on the table with hot dishes and things like that to protect your table. I'd like to show you how to make these step by step in this video. To make one of these coasters you need a 3mm hook together with Scheepjes Katona yarn. I've got leftovers here because this really is a perfect leftover project. So I've got Scheepjes Katona yarn, different amounts from different projects. Most of these colors come from the Trinity Mandalas project, and that's also the yarn that I'm using to make this video as an example for you. So leftover Katona yarn, a 3mm hook, and you'll need one of these cork coasters. You usually can buy them in sets of 3. They're 19 centimeters across, 7 inches, and I bought these at a local store where you can buy things for your kitchen. So these cork coasters, and we'll be covering them with our fabric. That's what you need to make these coasters. Round 1, I have a random color yarn. Doesn't matter which color you use. I'm just going to make a slip knot, put that on my hook, and then start with a chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Chain 4. Now we're going to come back to the first chain and close with a slip stitch. That forms a little ring. If I open this up, you see right there in the middle, that's the little ring. I'm going to be working in that ring. I'm going to make 12 double crochets. The first one is going to be a chain 3. So that chain 3 counts as my first double crochet. And now 11 more in the ring. Really open up this ring. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit so that you can really see what I'm doing. Open up this ring and work in it. That's the first double. Well, that's actually the second, depends on how you count. So that's a chain 3 plus 1 double. It's 1 in the ring. 2, going to make 11 more to bring my total to 12. This is 3. This is 4. If you want to, you can also do a magic ring here. I'm not a big fan of magic rings because I have had them come undone in the past. And I know my chain 4 with a slip stitch, that's just not going to come undone. So maybe I'm a little paranoid in that sense. And I mean, magic loops are fine as long as you work your yarn thread away really, really well. Oh, and I didn't do that, so that came undone. Let me just see where I'm at right now. I've got the chain 3, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This is 10, 11, and then this here is number 12 in the ring. There we go. So you've got chain 3 plus 11 double crochets. Now we're just going to come to the top of the chain 3 here. Just close there with a slip stitch. I'm leaving my yarn attached for the next round because that's still the same color. The mandala is at nicest if you leave this these 2 rounds the same color, and after that you start changing colors. Round 2. Round 2 we're going to work 2 double crochets on every stitch. So currently they're in the chain 3. I'm going to do a chain 3 again. That's again counts as a double crochet, and then in that same position in that same position there, work a double crochet. It's not here, this is the first stitch, and you see that first stitch kind of opens a little weird because you've got that slip stitch in there. But just in there, close, or where you close with the slip stitch, work a double, and then come to the next stitch, which here now is that first stitch, and you might just have to help your hook underneath there to get into that stitch properly, because it's being pulled by your slip stitch. That is 1 and 2, and from here on now it's a little easier. And again 2 double crochets in every stitch. So go all the way around, you work 2 doubles on every stitch, and then when you get back to the first stitch, which is going to be that chain 3, close on that with a slip stitch, and then you can cut your yarn. So 2 double crochets in every stitch all the way around. I'm just at the end of the row. I've closed with a slip stitch and I've cut my yarn. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to put a knot in here. Usually we open up this loop and then you need to work away the yarn tail, but I'm just literally going to put a knot in here, and that's because all of our stitches are going to be falling to the back. So, and this is just an easier way to tie off that yarn tail, and then you don't have to work it in as well. So I'm going to just tie off all my yarn tails as I go, because all our stitches, all of these joints are going to fall to the back of our work. Round 3, I have a new color yarn on my hook. I'm using a black yarn here. It's important that you now use a yarn that's really contrasting to your other colors. So black works really well, white will work really well, a dark blue, something that's really going to contrast to the other colors that you're going to be using. And this color we'll be using throughout the mandala to make the spokes that are on top of it. So with my black yarn, what we're going to be doing is we're going to come to round 1. So those are those front post, or those double crochets there in the middle, those 12. Going to work a front post treble on each of those with a chain 3 in between. That's what we're doing. So I'm going to yarn over twice, because my first one's going to be a standing front post treble, and then just hold on to those loops, and then pick any position and make life easier for you, and don't take the chain 3, because that sometimes it's a little harder to start in. So I'm going to take this stitch here, then around the post from the back, and then out the other side, to front to back, and then come out the other side. Pick up your loop, and now complete the treble, and hold on to all those loops on your hook. That's 1, 2, and the last one, 3. There you go. That's a standing front post treble. Chain 3. 1, 2, 3. And now come to the next double crochet here from round 1. It's that one. And work another front post treble. So I'm going to yarn over twice. You're going to have to hold on to these loops because you've got this chain here. It kind of makes them a bit floppy. And come to the next stitch. Pick up your loop and then complete the treble. So that's 1, 2, 3. I'll show you again. Chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Yarn over twice and hold on to those loops because of the chain is a bit floppy. And in the next double crochet from round 1, work a treble, front post treble. You can see how you're now building a mesh on top of these stitches. You're going to repeat this, go all the way around. So again, a chain 3, and then on the next stitch work a front post treble all the way here, and then you're going to finish with a chain 3 and then close in this loop here, in the loop from the standing stitch, that loop there, that hole, close in there with the slip stitch. And you can again really tie it off, because also this is going to fall to the back. Round 4, I have a new random color yarn on my hook. And take a moment to look at your work. You see you've got these black, this web on top. And you've got these here to the back. You've got these double crochet stitches. Now we're going to be working in those double crochet stitches, but we're going to be working through the holes that we've made here. So through those holes, through here. We're going to work in this direction. And just take a moment to look here. You see you've got 2 double crochets always worked in one stitch, and we're going to be working in those we're going to be starting in the second from any 2 of these double crochets worked in one stitch. So let's say I start here. You see those 2 doubles are worked in one position. We're going to be starting in the second one, so that stitch, that's the one that we're going to be starting with. And we're again going to be working a front post treble, but we're going to be working through the holes here, so keep an eye on that stitch. I'm just going to fold this back. You're going to have to just slightly turn this let me call it this web, because you don't want it to be like this. You see that's the second one there, let me hold it like that. You want that stitch to be to the left of a post, like that. So not on this side, but on that side. And if you're left-handed, you want it to be on the right. But if you're right-handed, you want it to be on the left. So there. So we're going to be starting, let me just do this a little bit like this. We're going to be starting in that stitch there. Now I'm just going to take my hook out, because we want to be working from the front through this gap. Like there. This is how we want to be starting. Now I'm just going to yarn over twice, because I want to make a standing front post treble around that stitch. So 1, 2 times yarn over, hold on to your yarn, and then come through the gap here in the web. In that second double crochet worked in one stitch, and work a standing front post treble. And we're going to go to the next stitch. We're still going to be working through the hole here. Yarn over twice, and work 2 front post trebles on the next stitch. And this stitch from round 2, this stitch will be the first of 2 double crochets worked in one position. So you're now going to the next position, and then work 2 front post trebles. So that's 1, and then this is a second one around the same position. So just stack the second one in front of the first one. So you now have 3 front post trebles between these two, these black front post trebles from round 3. We're going to skip the black front post treble here from round 3, and you're going to open this up and come to the next stitch from round 2, and you again might have to just wiggle this a little bit, that stitch there. You can see there's the stitch that that's my last worked stitch. So I'm going to skip this black stitch here and come to that purple stitch and work a front post treble on that. Twice over, and work a front post treble. And then come to the next position and work 2 front post trebles. 1, and this is 2. And you can see how here to the back, how your edges, they're falling to the back. You're only really going to see the top of the stitches. See there? Again, everything we've just done, repeat on the next position, and you're going to do that all the way around. I'll show you this all once again. Come to the next little slot here in the web. Moving this to the side because you really want to see that stitch there. It might really be hidden a little bit. So that stitch, that's the one you're going for with the front post treble. And be sure to leave this loop, this chain 3 loop here to the back, to leave that unworked. That's just going to fall to the back and you're going to do nothing with it. And the next stitch, I'm going to work 2 front post trebles on that stitch. That's 1 and 2. You see how you've now worked in 3 of these slots. You have a few more. Repeat this on all of them. So you're again going to work in this one, you're going to work the same way, and then in that one and here. And you're again every time going to just open up that slot and just really look for those stitches in there. When you get it to the beginning on this stitch there, in that gap, close there with a slip stitch, and then you can cut your yarn. Round 5, I again have my contrasting color, the black yarn. This is what your work looks like at the moment, and you've now had I think the hardest part. From here on it does get slightly easier. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be working around the black front post trebles you have here. We're going to be working front post trebles with the chain 4s in between. That's what we're doing. So the first one is again going to be a standing one, so yarn over twice. You can choose any position. Take that one, and then around that stitch work a front post treble. Chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, yarn over twice, and then come to the next front post treble from round 3 and work a front post treble. So you're not going to do anything with the stitches from round 4, we'll work in them later. Again, chain 4, yarn over twice and come to the next stitch and work a front post treble. Repeat this all the way around. Chain 4, front post treble, chain 4, front post treble, all the way around. You're going to work your last front post treble, chain 4, and then close on that first stitch. Round 6, new color yarn on my hook, a random color. We're now going to be working in the front post trebles from round 4 through the gaps that we've just made. I'm going to yarn over twice for a front post treble. You see I've got these 3 stitches that are between the posts. Go to the first one and work a standing front post treble. The second stitch, I'm going to work 2 front post trebles on that. And just again stack them up in front of each other. That's 1. And 2. And you've got the last one here, that third one, work a front post treble on that. So You've now got 4 front post stitches between these 2 black spokes. I'm going to skip the black spoke and then come to the blue stitches here again from round 4, yarn over twice, then in the first one there work 1 front post treble, and the second one you're going to work 2. You can see how this is the same as what we've just done. 1, and then this is number 2. And then come to the last one and work a front post treble. There you go. This you're going to repeat all the way around. So between, we're only going to work on the stitches from round 4 between the spokes. You're going to skip the black spokes, go all the way around, and you get here after you work your last treble, close on your first stitch with a slip stitch. Round 7, I have my contrasting color yarn, my black yarn on my hook again. And we're going to do pretty similar as we've done before. On the front post trebles from round 5, so those are the black spokes here, going to work a front post treble and then a chain 5 in between, so 1 chain more than last time. So yarn over twice, come to any position, and then around that stitch from round 5, work a front post treble. And I do believe this one didn't quite go right, but now let me just do that again. Now it's all just jumbled up. So you really need to go, hold on to those loops. And then take off 2, take off 2, take off 2. And there we go, front post treble. Chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yarn over twice, and then come to the next position here and work a front post treble. Chain 5, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then come to the next position and work a front post treble. Continue this all the way around. After your last chain 5, close on that first stitch with a slip stitch. Round 8, I have a new random color yarn on my hook, and we're again going to work in the stitches from round 6 between the posts from round 7. So you've got those 4 front post trebles there, going to start in the first one. Yarn over twice, and in that first one make a standing front post treble. In the second one make a front post treble, so just 1. Then in the third stitch you're going to do 2 front post trebles. 1 and the next one is 2. You have 1 stitch left here, work 1 front post treble on that stitch. This you're going to repeat all the way around. So we're going to skip the black front post treble here, come to that first yellow one from round 7, or sorry, round 6. And work a front post treble. You can see how that stitch is the same as the one here, the standing one we started with. So the next one takes 1 front post treble third stitch here between the trebles takes 2 front post trebles. That's 1 and 2, and then the last one here, 1 front post treble. Repeat this all the way around. So I'm going to skip the next one here and then come to that first yellow one. Well, repeat all the way, and after you've worked the last front post treble, close on the first stitch. Round 9, my contrasting colour yarn on my hook again. And we're going to do the same as we've done before. I'm going to work a front post treble around the front post stitches from 2 rows down, so that's around 7, and this time a chain 6 in between. To yarn over twice and come to any position. I'm going to take that one there, work a front post treble, chain 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, yarn over twice, come to the next position and work a front post treble, and that's it. Go all the way around. I'm going to show you again because this really is the same as we've done before. So chain 6 and then a front post treble, chain 6, a front post treble, go all the way around, and after your last chain 6, close with the slip stitch. Round 10, new colour yarn on my hook, and we're again going to be working in the front post stitches from round 8 between stitches from round 9. Going to yarn over twice to start in the first stitch. We're always going to start here in the first one with the standing front post treble. And we come to the second position and also work 1 front post treble. The next one, that's going to be the center one. You've got 5 there, so that's center one. Number 3, work 2 front post trebles on that. So 1, and this here is 2. You've got 2 left, work 1 on each. So 1, and this is 2. And that you're going to repeat all the way around. So the next stitch, you're going to again skip here the front post treble from round 9 and come to that stitch from round 8, the first one, and work a front post treble. And that stitch is exactly the same as the standing stitch we started with. So you're going to next stitch work a front post treble, then you're going to work 2, then 1, 1. So your rhythm here is 1, 1, 2, 1, 1. Go all the way around and close with a slip stitch. Round 11, again, I'm going to start with the front post treble in any stitch, any front post treble from 2 rows down, my contrasting yarn. And then we do a chain 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, so a chain 7, and then again a front post treble around the next front post treble from 2 rows down, and repeat this all the way around. Again chain 7 and then a front post treble here from 2 rows down all the way around, and after your last chain 7, close on your first stitch. Round 12, a new colour yarn on my hook. Again going to work in between 2 spokes, so you've I've got those 6 stitches there. I'm going to work a front post treble on the first 2, then on number 3 we do an increase, so we're going to work 2 on that one and then 1 on each of the last 3. So rhythm is 2 and increase 3. So in the first one we're going to work 1 front post treble, and the second one work 1 front post treble, then work an increase. So here we're going to work 2, so 1 and 2, got 3 stitches left on each of those, work a front post treble, and then you're going to skip the black treble, so that's the one from round 11 I believe, and then repeat. In the next stitch here, so I'm going to skip the black stitch and then come to the pink one, so the next one, and you can see how that stitch is the same as this first one here. So on the second treble here work 1 treble, then on the third you work 2, and then on 4, 5 and 6 you work 1 on each. Go all the way around and close with a slip stitch. Round 13, very similar to what we've done before, a front post treble, around the front post treble from 2 rows down, so that will be round 11, then a chain 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then again a front post treble around the next front post treble from round 11. And there we go. So again, chain 8, then a front post treble around this one here, a chain 8 front post treble around that one, all the way around. After your last chain 8, close on your first stitch. Round 14, new color yarn on my hook, random color. We have here 7 stitches between the posts. On the first 3 you work a front post treble. The fourth one, that's the center one, you work an increase. You're going to work 2 front post trebles on that one, and then on the last 3 you work a front post treble. So I'll show you that, and then you can go all the way around. So the first one is of course a standing front post treble. Then stitch number 2 gets a front post treble. You can see how the rhythm, this is very similar to rounds we've done before. The third one gets a front post treble. So that's the first 3. And here's stitch number 4 gets 2. And that's 1, 2. We've got 3 left. Work a front post on each of those. So that's 1, 2, and this here is 3. You have to skip the black stitch here. That's a stitch from the previous round, and come to the front post treble from 2 rows down. There we go. And that stitch is the same as this stitch here that we started with. Go all the way around and then close on your first stitch. Round 15, very similar to all the rounds we've done before. Going to work a front post treble around the front post treble here from round 13 and a chain 9 in between. Got the black yarn on my hook again, twice over, and hold on to all of those loops. And I'm just going to start in this one here with a standing front post treble. Chain 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Twice over, again hold on to all those loops. Come to your next front post treble here. Hook onto that. Take off 2 loops, take off 2 loops, and take off 2 loops. And repeat. So again, chain 9 and then work a front post treble here. Go all the way around. After your last chain 9, close on that first standing stitch with a slip stitch. Round 16, I have again a new random color yarn on my hook, and we're going to be working the last color round of this pattern. In between 2 of the spokes, come to the first stitch, and that one there, going to work a standing front post treble around it. Twice over, hold on to all of those loops. Underneath, grab your yarn. It's important to just hold on to all of those loops as you make the stitch. Then you prevent that first stitch from becoming too large. Repeat and work a front post treble on the next 2 also. So you're going to have 3 front post trebles on the first 3 stitches, 1 on each. So first 3, then on stitch number 4 here, going to work 2. Twice over. This is very similar to all the rounds we've done before. That's 1 and 2. The next 4 stitches work 1 on each. One, 2, 3, and 4. We're going to repeat this between all the spokes. So twice over, and then come to the first stitch here. So you're just going to skipping the black treble, and then come to the next one, and again here work a front post treble. You can see how that stitch is the same as the stitch we started with. So the next 2 work a front post treble, and then on stitch number 4 work 2, so 2 front post trebles, and then on the next 4 work 1 on each. Go all the way around, and then you can close on that first stitch again with a slip stitch. Round 17. This round is slightly different to the rounds we've done before. We're again going to work in front post trebles around the spokes, but instead of doing a chain in between, we're going to work a single crochet on each of these stitches in between. Again, got the black yarn on my hook. Yarn over twice, hold on to that, and then come to any of the front post trebles from round 15 and start with a standing front post treble around that stitch. Then come to the first of the stitches here from round 16. So come between 9 stitches and work a single crochet in each of those. This is the first one. It's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, and this here is number 9. 9 single crochets. You've now reached the front post treble again from round 15. Yarn over twice, come down around that stitch from round 17 and work a front post treble around it. And this is the same as the stitch we started with. That means here in this next stitch from round 16, work a single, and that's again the first of 9. Continue like this and go all the way around. When you get to your last stitch here, going to be that stitch here, that single crochet, you're going to close with an invisible join. Just later on in the video I'll just also show you how to do that. Here's one I finished before, and if you look at the back you see all these yarn tails. Now normally I'd say work them away, but this time round you don't really have to. You can just leave them like this because we're going to add another one on top of this, like a wedge, and then they'll be on the inside anyway. So you could just leave them like this, or what you could also do, and that's what I've been doing, is you can tie these yarn tails together. And I'll just show you what I mean by that. For example, here you see this yarn tail and this yarn tail. This is the beginning and end from this row. So what I've been doing is I've been tying these two threads together into a few knots. So that's 2, and this here is 3, and then I have just been snipping this off. Don't snip them off too short because then they will come undone, but just like that. And that's it. I've been doing that for all my my coasters, and then this really nothing is going to happen to this because it's going to be on the inside of the fabric. You won't see it, and it won't be able to move either because you've got the coaster back onto it. So I've been working away all my yarn tails in this way. So if we just look at it from the front, so this is the back, so I'll be tying these off as well. So if you just look at it from the front you really won't notice. This last round here, this one, you see I've not closed with a slip stitch. Just do an invisible join here. I'll show you how to do that also. To make an invisible join here after the last round, I'm just going to take my finishing yarn tail and just hook that onto a yarn needle. This is the stitch we started with. That's the standing front post treble, that stitch there. Go to the stitch next to it, the first single crochet, and pass your needle underneath both the loops of that stitch and pull through. Then come back to the last single crochet worked, that's this one, and insert your needle through the top of the stitch. So in essence comes down to through the back loop and the base of the stitch, and thread that needle through. That means you now have 2 little threads that are going to form the top of the front post treble. So you're going to replace the top of the stitch with this new little V that you've made. And I realize this might be a little hard to see because of the black yarn here. I see here's the stitch that we've just made, that invisible join. I have a separate video in my Crochet Fundamentals showing how to make an invisible join. So if you're just finding it hard to see, just quickly look at that video. Then I'm going to thread away this yarn tail, and actually the beginning yarn tail as well. These two you need to thread, all the other ones you could have cut off, and then we're ready to assemble. I've shown you how to work this pattern here, this circle with the spokes. To finish the coaster you're going to need at least 2 of these. So I've got here several that I've worked in different colorways. And you can really just use all the colors just random. You see, this one is nice and sunny, all in yellow colors. And these are all in random colors. So depending on what you like, you can take different colorways. So to finish the coaster, because this is already a nice thick fabric, but it is very bit soft and floppy, I'm going to need 2 of them, and these 2 we're going to assemble together with the cork in between, and then that will be the coaster. So make 2 patterns, 2 circular patterns, and then we're going to finish them by turning them into the coaster. To finish the coaster, you're going to take 2 circular discs, and you're going to, this is the back of one and this is the back of the other. You're going to place them on top of each other with their back sides facing. So that means you're going to have the front on either side of the coaster. We're first going to start by just joining about half of the stitches, then insert the coaster, the cork coaster, so that's this one, then insert that, stretching it over the coaster, and then finishing off the rest of the stitches. I'm going to show you how to make this join using yellow yarn. That's so that you can see what I'm doing, but actually you should do this with black yarn, that this edge is all one color, that you don't see where you've joined them. That's the idea. That's what my vision is on the design. But to show you on the video, I'm going to use a yellow yarn, otherwise you can't see what I'm doing. So I'm just going to zoom in a little bit, and then with the back of the works facing each other, just line them up, and I have a slip knot on my hook, and we're going to work single crochet stitches through each equivalent stitch on either side. So it's easiest if we start in the front post treble on this side. So I'm just going to go through all the loops. So I've got both loops here from this front post treble, then come to the other side. I seem to have a bit of fluff here in the way. Then come to the other side and go and look for that front post treble. You see, there's the front post treble on the other side. You see there. So I've now got my hook through all 4 loops of both front post trebles, and then work a single crochet through that stitch. Then come to the next stitch and the next stitch after, and just add that one through all 4 loops and work a single crochet, and then the next stitch and the next, and work a single. You can really see this now, because it's yellow, you can really see that it is kind of contrasting to the stitches, and actually what I'm going to, when I finish showing you this on the video, I'll just rip out this yellow and do it again in the black, so that's all one color, and then you don't see this join at all, then it all just blends in. So I'm just going to repeat and work a single crochet on every stitch like this until I'm about halfway through, and then I'll just show you how to insert the coaster. I've now worked about just over half of the join here. I'm just going to open up my working yarn. I'm just going to really open up this loop, because I don't want anything happening to this loop accidentally, because we're going to be stretching the fabric, and you never know what can go wrong. So I'm just opening up this loop considerably, and then just for a moment I'm going to just park my hook, because we're going to insert the coaster. So this is my cork coaster in here. If you don't have a cork coaster, you can also use a piece of cardboard. That's a nice thick piece of cardboard, so about this thick, and then insert that into here. Now you've got a pocket, so I'm going to insert this in. We can see that it's smaller than the coaster is, and that's on purpose, because we want this to be stretched out. So I'm just going to insert this in here, and as I do so, I'm just going to stretch it out and just help this all a little bit. So I'm just going to pull both sides of the fabric, and you can really stretch this. You can see I'm really pulling on the fabric here. And there we go. And now I've got it in there reasonably well. You want it to be nice and symmetric, so you want the join, the single crochet join, to be nice here on the edge of the coaster, so that's not on the front or the back, but it's nicely here on the edge. And now what I'm going to do is going to be working the rest of this join, and as you do so, you're going to be stretching out the fabric around this coaster. So that means from now here on it's going to be a bit tougher maybe. So I'll just zoom in and just show you how to work these first few stitches. And this is going to be wrestling a little bit here because you know, this cork coaster isn't going to be budging, so you're going to have to be working around it. So the next stitch, insert through both loops here, and then find your fabric to the back, and then take the next stitch there, and that's going to be this one. And it's actually going to be easier if you work this from with the side facing you, so like this. But then, so if you work a little bit like this, so I've now have it upright, and that might just be a little bit easier for you to work. And then complete that single crochet. And continue like this all the way around, so taking one stitch at a time, stretching your fabric over the coaster until you get to this point. And after you've done that last single crochet on either side, close with an invisible join. I've shown you how to do that, and then work away your yarn tails. When you've completed your coaster and it's all connected all the way around, this is what it looks like. So I've got it here on both sides. You've got the nice black edge on this side. You can stop at this point if you want to, or what you could also do is, for example, on this one here, I've got a final edge here on this side. This is an edge with crab stitches. I'll just show you how to do that, but this really is optional because these stitches they can make a bit of a struggle to make them. But I'll show you how to make this crab stitch edge, so you can choose whether or not you want to have that on the coaster. To make the final edge with crab stitches, I'm going to do that in the pink yarn here, and we're going to attach in any stitch of this is the stitch containing the joins. In any stitch, attach there with a slip stitch. Now, crab stitches are single crochets worked in the wrong direction. So if you're right-handed, we're going to work these to the right, and if you're left-handed, you're going to work them to the left. So you're going to be working in the opposite direction of where you normally do. But for the rest, it's a single crochet. So there's the stitch to the right. So pick up your yarn from the back and then curl that stitch inwards. Now you see you've got two loops on your hook and they're kind of a bit twisted. And then complete the single crochet with the yarn over and pull through. I'll show you again. So in the next stitch, insert, and now I'm going to pick up my yarn, and as I do so, I'm going to kind of twist it up, and then complete the single crochet. And you've got those two stitches rolled on there. In the next stitch, just insert in the stitch, pick up your yarn and roll this back up, and you've got two twisted stitches on your hook, yarn over and pull through. And again the next one, insert in that stitch. You want both loops, not just the one, through both loops, pick up the yarn and roll underneath, then yarn over and pull through. And that went wrong, and no worries if it goes wrong, you just do it again, because I've got the coaster here, so that makes it just a little bit harder to do this, and you see I'm actually doing a bit of a knitting yarn over here, and that is on purpose because it is just easier for me to do it this way than the classic crochet way. Then one more time in the next stitch, go through both loops, roll underneath and bring that stitch back up. I see now I've snagged that black thread there. I don't want that. So I'm just going to see if I can get rid of that one without having, nope, I need to do it again. And I say these crab stitches, they are just a bit tricky, and if you don't want to do this, I totally understand. So in the next stitch, pick up that loop, and I've got that snag again. At least I'm being consistent in how I work my stitches. There you go. And then yarn over and pull through both loops. And what happens here is that you see you're getting this rolled stitch edge there, and that's exactly what we're making. So go all the way around. You get here, you're going to make, and your final one is going to be in the stitch where you made the slip stitch. You're going to make your last crab stitch in there. Then I'll just show you how to finish off this round. I've gone all the way around. You see I've made my last crab stitch in the same position as where the slip stitch is. That's my last crab stitch. So I'm just going to cut the yarn and open this up. Now to work away yarn tails here, that's rather a bit tricky actually, because you want to work away in such a way that you don't see the yarn tail, but you've got nothing to work into. So I'll just show you how I do this, and I do thread this on a needle. I know some people work away with their hook, but I've never managed to be able to do that. So this is my working yarn that I've finished with. So what I'm going to do, so I'm just going to thread it through the slip stitch, and that way, and if you pull that tight, this crab stitch kind of connects to the starting round. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to thread this through the top of these, actually of the loops of the crab stitch. So I'm just going to work this through a number of these stitches you see here at the top. And I'm purposefully doing it at the top because here at the bottom you've got that clean edge with the crab stitch, so you don't want to have your yarn in there because then you're going to end up seeing it against the black. So just through these top loops, I'm just going to turn my work over, and then just through these, that's not really a loop, is it? It's more like these folds. Just going to push my yarn through there. And as you do so, just pull it a little tighter. That'll help to connect that last crab stitch. And if you look also at it from the other side, you see it falls here in the top. You can hardly see where that yarn is. So this yarn, I'm just going to work through the top loops here just a little bit further. And then this yarn, this is the one that this is my connecting yarn. This is the one that I joined the slip stitch with. I'm just going to go and work it through the top here to the left, and that way I'm just going to go in opposite directions. So this one goes this way and the other one goes that way, and then the coaster really is all done. So just work away these last two yarn tails, and when you've worked away that last yarn tail, this is what your coaster looks like. Depending on how you make them, you have different edges and different sides, but so different looks and feels depending on how you place the colors. But this brings us to the end of this instruction video. I hope you enjoy these coasters. I hope yours turn out lovely. But thank you for watching, and hope to see you again soon for a new project.